Hello, wonderful people out on the internet. It's RPG Grandma. Some of you know me by other names, but yep, it's me again. Today, we're going to take a look at Eldritch Wizardry, Psionic Rules. I'm going to try to make this short, but sweet. So, let me explain what I did. Now, I read it, and I read it, and I read it again. I think Psionics, really, part of the reason it got a bad rep is the first time outside of the monster, which it was easy to understand. It's got a power. It uses its power. There didn't seem to be any limitation on that per se. And the creatures that are defending use their intelligence. And if they fail to save, then different things happen based on their intelligence. You know, everything from instant death to on one end to permanent insanity on the other end, and then a bunch of stuff in between that would make you take out lunch, because you're unconscious for a long time, or things like that, cause you to be feeble-minded, cause you to temporarily go berserk and be a danger to yourself and others. And in general, that was easy to understand, though. Very easy, very straightforward. Okay? Then we got these first Psionic Rules, along with the druids and some new monsters and some monster updates on old monsters. So, and people's heads went, not in a good way. Not mind blown, oh, I can do all this cool stuff. It was like, what? And it's partially about how the book's laid out. It's a little confusing. Gary and Mr. Bloom always needed a good editor, and they wrote this together. So, and I understand people don't get it. It's you have to get used to reading these kinds of things to sort of like be able to pull it together. You got to learn to take notes is what you got to learn to do. And rereading, and a lot of the early RPG systems are the creative process. You're actually reading it in process. So, it'll be like druid thing, psionic thing. Some more druid stuff, bunch of psionic stuff, boom, a line of druid stuff. And so there's lots of reasons that could have happened, including layouts. Again, we got computers. Way easier if you know how to use the programs. I'm using an iPad. I don't got a good program for that stuff. But I'm just saying, I know from experience, I'm old enough to know about cutting things out, making it fit, blowing things up on the Xerox machine, making them smaller, taping them into position. It's a different world. Totally different world doing that stuff. So could it have been better? Obviously, but these were just like regular, like if you and I tried to write a book and someone just said, here's some graph paper, here's some pens, pencils, a typewriter, and some tape, make it happen. You'd be like, what? might have some problems. So here's what I did. I used Minimagic 1974 to make a fighting man. I rolled 3d6s. That's it. 3d6s. To get my numbers. I just rolled the numbers and then I put them where I wanted them, because our person down the road here, at least for Eldritch, needed to have at least 15 in either wisdom, intelligence, or charisma. So I stuck it in charisma because that, like, if you weren't sticking in strength as a fighter, the other best choice is your charisma. So you have your followers and do your leadership thing and all that. I looked at Greyhawk 1975 as well, a little pamphlet. PDFs. Some of my PDFs are better than others, but I looked at it. And because the forwards in here is from, this reprint is from 1976. So I have to consider that material's out. Okay. And I made a first level dude. 0 experience points. So human X here gave him 6 hit points. Even bothered to roll up the gold, old school style. He has no supplies because I'm just going to supply him with whatever he needs if we do combat and stuff with him. But, you know, I wanted to see what his saving throws would be like. You know, things like that. So I put them together. So let's go over the rules. Now, I took notes because reading the book, it's going to be really hard, and you're not going to be able to put the dots together as easy. And this is what you have to do when you use this old stuff. Sit down with paper and pen and take notes and look for the answers. And when it's referring to something you can't find it, it's because you read past it and didn't compute. You didn't comprehend that the answer's in there somewhere, and you got to go back and reread until you find it, which I had to do. So I think that's part of the problem. People didn't like psionics. Part of it. And we'll get, when we do combat, there'll be more. But right now we're just creating a dude, all right? So you rolled up your stats. You got a 15 in either intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. This is required to even have a chance at getting psionic abilities. And you got to be human, because only humans can be psionic in this original presentation. They probably wanted the humans to have something cool that nobody else did, all right? Because everybody else was beginning to get cooler. And, of course, you know, that was a concern Gary had, you know, just like he didn't want the magic users to be more important than the fighters. So you ended up with the changes in the hit dice, things like that in Greyhawk. Okay. Whereas Anderson was like, no, why are we doing that? Okay. So, you know, the split was already happening. This idea that D&D Basic and D&D Advanced are 2 separate games, sort of, kind of, but not. They are the same game, taken in slightly different directions. That's the truth. I mean, it's not a baby game, adult game. It's not. Man, when I was growing up, we mixed it all together, people. We just did. We used whichever rules we wanted in the moment. We used rules from other games, for gosh sakes. Hey, let's try adding this into D&D. We did it. Everybody does it. All right. So you got to be human. Got to have that 15 in those 3 mental, and charisma's mental in D&D. And you can only be a fighting man, a magic user, a cleric, or a thief. You can't be a monk. You can't be a druid. You can't be a paladin. You can't be a ranger. You can't be any of those other classes and be psionic. Okay? So we got a fighting man. We got a 15. So now what do you have to do? Well, you got to get out these puppies. Old school, one color is going to be your high number. One color is going to be your low number, because it's all 0 to 9. Okay? 2 zeros is 100. All right? I got another one here. It's got a dice inside a dice. This is what I actually use to roll. And then our more modern dice got the ones with the doubles and the ones that are single. So this is going to be your 10s through your 10s, and this is going to be your low number. And when it lands on all zeros, that's 100. I'm pointing this out because people seem confused about this over the years, and I don't know. I mean, am I just been doing it long enough that it's not confusing to me? Or I just don't know. So, you got to get 91% or higher. That's a 9%. So, that you got to roll 91, 92, 93, 94. One of those numbers, go in that direction to be psionic. I don't know why it wasn't 10%. Don't ask me. I've thought about it. It's just a weird number to pick. But that's what they did. And I gave it a shot. Said, I'll roll just for giggles. I mean, he's going to be psionic no matter what, because we need somebody to experiment with. And got 95. I'll post the picture. So he's legit. He has the potential to gain a psychic ability. The potential. All right, then you got to roll again. Second roll. Okay? This actually determines your psychic potential. It's an important number. And it took, they give some examples, but not enough. All right? Took me a bit to figure out how to use all these numbers. So you roll it. There's a chart. Hopefully, I can get the chart up here. And you look down the chart and you go across and see what it says. Write down that number. The number's important because you're going to use it later. I rolled an 85. It's a good number. Okay, so our little dude gets a plus 1% with his level accumulative. What does that mean? Well, you have a base chance of 10% that when you roll your potential either lowers because you rolled a bad number category. Now you got a negative to take off, or it does nothing, or you get a plus. So you add that little plus. So now he's at 11%. Okay, he's level 1. So you multiply that times 1. You're still at 11. If he was third, you'd multiply that times 3, and he'd have a 33%. So every time he goes up a level, you get a roll to see if you get an ability. All right? That's what's going on here. And you go up your level based on what you would know, how you would normally gain experience points and normally go up for your class. So that doesn't change. Whatever your modifiers are over there, that's happening. So we got 11% because we're at first level. Okay? So I rolled. Now because it's 11%, there's 2 ways to do that. I did the easiest math. 1 through 11. That's the easiest math to do on 11%. So I rolled the percentile dice again. Got a 2. Yeah, I wrote it down. I got a 2. So it gets 1 ability. But there's a bonus roll. Yeah. So then you roll again to see if you get a second ability. And you're like, oh, 11% again. No. The book says you use your psychic potential number. Remember that 85%? So whatever your potential is, you have that percentage second chance, which is easier to get a second ability. And he did. Okay? All right? So our guy has 2 of the psychic abilities. Plus, because he is psychic, he gets an auto. So he's going to walk out of this creation with 3 things. Okay? So, my notes. Okay? I mean, I really crunched this. All right? So, everybody gets Psionic Blast as their first attack mode. You get attack and defense modes in this, plus abilities, which are a separate thing. You earn the attack and defense modes by getting abilities. That's how it works. So the more abilities you get, at some point, boom, you get another attack mode, you get another defense mode. You get no defense modes. So your intelligence is it. That's the only way to run a defense for a character. It's the only thing that makes sense that I could see. I don't believe in nobody having no defenses. That's just, they at least have the power to try to keep Spock from telling him to unlock the door and let Captain Kirk and him out, okay, as the guard. You at least get a chance to put up a little bit of something, in my opinion. And that is how I would play this, okay? And that is what when we get to combat, we will go through the combat rules. That's going to be a different video, though, okay? So then you got to figure out, because now I know I have 2 abilities. So now I can figure out my psionic attack strength. D&D, you got to do math. The new D&D, I think they're afraid of words and they're afraid of math. It looks slick, don't get me wrong. And it's got some good mechanics. But they are afraid that Americans and anybody else they're translating stuff for, we're just all too dumb to figure out to Google a word or to get an actual dictionary out or to sit down and go, okay, I know I can get this. I'm going to take notes and figure out how to do this. And we have YouTube channels that tell you how to do stuff. We're too stupid. I wasn't too stupid when I was a little kid. I don't believe the population is too stupid to do the same. And it makes you smarter. And you read history books, you start reading stuff, and you start learning stuff. They just want to keep us dumb. As dumb as possible. It's not a big deal to learn a new word, guys. Put Gary language back in stuff. It's okay. Put formulas back in stuff. Just edit the book better. That's really all you got to do. Anyway, my complaint to WotC. We're not dumb. Okay. So the formula is psychic potential. That's that 85 number I rolled. Plus psionic abilities, which we have 2, multiplied by 2, that makes a number 4, plus your psionic attack and psionic defense, added together and multiplied by 5. You add that all together, and that gives your psychic attack strength, which is important. We'll need that later, okay? So for this guy, for Human X, it's 85 plus 4 plus 5, because he's only got the attack, right? He only got the 1 attack. He has no defense number. He doesn't have a special ability there yet. And you got to multiply that by 5. So it's 85 plus 4 plus 5 gives us a 94. All right? And it took me a while. I had to dig and reread because I wasn't seeing it the way the book's written to find the psionic strength formula. That's different. So you take your 94. You take that number for your psionic attack strength and you multiply that by 2, and that gives you your psionic strength points. So that's 208 for our little buddy here. All this is important later. All right? Now I got to figure out what special abilities he's got. Now that's supposed to be a random roll, and there's a way to weight it, you know, and they basically are telling you to use some common sense. You know, if you got ESP, then you should have a better chance of getting telepathy or something like that, right? Or empathy, or, you know, these things kind of go together. But if you got like something that allows you to make yourself small and manipulate molecules, maybe you should get something else. Well, and for the fighter, it's 2 columns. one's superior, one's basic. You're supposed to randomly roll this. There's no charts. So, I just went with the basic side. You could add them together, in theory. And then if I'd done that, I would have used a 20-sided. Like my little 20-sideds. Or this guy's got 2 in it. Yeah. I like weird dice. Or this thing. This is a 20-sided dice, people. Check it out. Got some weird ones. But, you can't have more superiors than you have the basics. You always have to have like a ratio of more of those to the superior in the rules I read through. So what I figured was roll for basics, just roll for 2 basics. There was 12 of them. So I rolled this dice, which has 2 12s in it. And so I got 2 numbers at once. I got a 4 and a 5. And so that gave him, or her, because it's human X, we don't know what gender, haven't even named it. Domination. Yeah, sounds good, right, guys? And mind over body. Okay. Mind over body is cool. It's cool. So we'll get into those the next episode of the Psionics, where we go into what these things do. So Sonic Blast, which costs 20 points to use. We'll go over that. And then these other abilities that have their costs, I'll look at that. Domination allows you to dominate someone's mind, man. And mind over body. So Human X is looking pretty badass, right? And that's, you want to play D&D like it, old school D&D, like you are like taking heavy metal and psychedelic rock and, you know, just, and all that fantasy and pulp and putting it together from the 70s into the 80s and going gonzo. At least that's the way, you know, we did it. And that's why you can't, things like Ardoon came into existence, which has a completely different take on charisma. You will see as we go through this stuff, and I've got really cool old stuff to share. I really am excited about sharing stuff from Roll Aids on Psionics, and also looking at all the stuff that everything Ardoon. I'm really excited about that, because I actually do have some old Ardoon stuff. I'm still fixing my old D&D issues stuff. But that's how you make an old school psionic character. So you need the old Greyhawk rules. You need the Minimagic rules. You need Eldritch Wizardry, because AD&D's rules are different for psionics. So we'll be doing an AD&D character, and we'll be doing an AD&D psionics. The rules change, okay? But if you're going to make old school, like if you're doing old school essentials, which I haven't found any psionics for them yet. Not saying don't exist. I just am not aware of it. This is your old school Psion right here. And this is what you're going for. So you're going to have points to spend, and there's a way to do that. You're going to have a way to get your points back. There's a way to do that in here, and we're going to go over all that. So I hope you are getting jazzed about psionics. If I can do the math, believe me, you can do it. All right? Believe in yourself. But the trick to these older books and these older materials is notes. And not giving up. When you're like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? No, you missed it. And your brain didn't recognize it. And that you got to find it. You got to Easter egg hunt that puppy. And it is in there. And sometimes you'll have to make judgment calls. Just like I said, I don't believe, because you're psionic, you have no defense now against psionic attacks. Baloney. When you have no defense, and you're going to have to default to either your intelligence as your defense, or if the team's nice, that 15 in the stat, in the ability, okay? That's the call. As the rules are written, no psionic defense, it's your intelligence. So if I go that way with this guy, and maybe when we do combat, we'll see. His intelligence is 10, not a 15. But as rules is written, it would be a 10. If you're super nice, then you could logic out, because it's 15 in intelligence, wisdom, or charisma that allows you to be psionic, and then that's what the player gets to use to save. That is the choice I would make before they have defense modes when faced with the Mind Blast from our favorite oldie, the Mind Flayer. So, and this book has a whole bunch of monsters in it too, we should talk about. So, have a great day. Keep on rolling. Have fun gaming. And remember, it's your universe. As the DM, the umpire, the referee, the dungeon minister, the dungeon master, whatever term you use, the game master, the game mistress. It's your fantasy world, whether you're playing sci-fi, fantasy, a mix, whether you're trying to do something more historic. It's your fantasy world. Okay? Remember that. So if you want your owlbears to fly, they can fly. If you want lasers and lightsabers, go for it. Just remember, you need something that the lightsaber can't cut through. Don't. Try to keep a little bit of balance. You need bad guys or good guys that make the guy with the Force have to deal with the Force. And don't forget, too, that maybe we'll figure out how to talk about how characters might get psionics. Because in this, that's another thing. In the beginning, it doesn't say, this is important for later, it doesn't say it has to be done at 100% only at character creation. It's implied, but it's not outright stated. And let's face it, things happen to player characters. And why can't something happen to a player character that causes them to develop psionics? I mean, it happened in that Forbidden Planet where the dude puts the Krell machine on his head and it causes him to have that psionic monster he makes out of his id that kills everybody. That's a bad thing, but it could happen. It could happen in a game. You could have those scenarios. You could explore that stuff, either as it happened into an NPC or it's happened to a player character. So remember, it's your universe. So even though Gary and Bloom said only humans, if you want to make a universe where only dwarves are psionic, why not? Anyway, have a great day. Bye.